Hey guys, Dr. Michael Tang, physiotherapist here, and in this video I'm going to be going over my review on the TYR L1 lifters. Now, I'm not going to lie, I was a bit excited for this shoe just because it's specifically designed to be a wide foot weightlifting shoe. These shoes were made in collaboration between a physiotherapist influencer by the name of Squat University and TYR, with the aim of making this particular pair of shoe as anatomically close to the shape of the foot. Now, I think that's pretty cool just because it's one of the few collaborations I've seen between a physiotherapist and a sportswear company, making it hit just a little bit deeper for me. But getting back to the shoe, one word description, thick. Compared to my old weightlifting shoes, which are the original Reebok Legacy lifters, the most immediate feeling that I got with the L1 lifters are that they are extremely comfortable just because they have so much space in the toe box area. And it really is more than just the width of the toe box area. Now, for reference, this is what the shoe looks like side by side to my old pair of weightlifting shoes. The anatomy of the shoe is very similar, but as you can clearly see, they are a bit wider both from looking on the outside as well as looking at the soles of the shoes. These days, I have been wearing barefoot shoes, which has the wanted side effect of making my foot a little bit stronger, which in turn made them more muscular, and therefore also thicker. So finding shoes that fit my feet well is becoming ever more challenging, but it's really not a problem when I wear barefoot shoes, but for everything else, like dress shoes, then I have to get like a half size up or something to make it work. Now, as expected, with a weightlifting shoe that is designed specifically to be wider, the L1 lifter fit just fine with my normal shoe size. I think for most people though, going true to size will probably work unless you have a abnormally wide foot, in which case you probably might want a half size up. But I do want to mention that my Legacy lifters still fit me fine for the time being, and I think it's mostly just a combination of my foot still being a pretty average shape and the fact that the shoe has been broken in for like a couple years and now the materials are a bit looser. However, despite me being an advocate for wide shoes, I don't think always having wider shoes is a great thing because you can actually run into the problem of having too much space, making it easier for your foot to either slide around leading to blisters or jammed toes. So for those of you who have narrow feet, I actually would shy away from these shoes. But continuing on with the review, as usual, whenever a shoe claims to be a bit wider, I actually like to test them out with wearing some toe spacers. And the verdict is, it is better, but only just by a little bit. In these shoes, I still feel like my toes get jammed up on the lateral side of the shoe. However, the biggest difference actually comes from the total volume of the toe box, not actually the width of the shoe. As I wore my Legacy lifters, I felt like my foot was getting squeezed on all sides, whereas in the TYR L1 lifters, there's only a slight pressure coming from the sides of the shoes. So that might be something to consider if you're specifically trying to get these particular shoes for spacers. If you don't wear any toe spacers, then you probably don't even need to worry about it because your toes will have plenty of space to feel comfortable. But outside the draw of a wider shoe, the L1 lifters really function extremely similar to my old pair of Legacy lifters. They are pretty much built exactly the same as any other weightlifting shoe, which includes having an elevated heel, some Velcro straps in the center of the midfoot to lock it down, a flexible forefoot to allow for toe off, and no deformation of the heel when you add compression to it. The materials are made from a micro suede material which covers the entire shoe with the exception of the ankle collar and the tongue of the shoe where it's mesh. There are a couple of holes in the front of the shoe for ventilation, which is nice, but honestly, I don't really think it made that big of a difference because my foot still felt like it was cooking during my workouts. But I want to get back to the Velcro straps, which I thought were positioned in an anatomically good position to keep my foot locked in, but at the cost of the upper Velcro portion being so high that it actually gets in the way when you're trying to tie your laces. It actually forced me to tie my laces first with the Velcro strap open before I can actually tie my shoes properly. Now I know it is being a bit picky, but honestly, it's something that annoyed me more than I'm willing to admit. Which gets into my other gripe about the shoe, which is the tongue of the shoe is really, really short. It makes it so that there's no room for me to actually hold on to the fabric when I'm trying to put on the shoe. It would have been nice to either have the tongue be a bit longer or leave a little bit of a tongue loop for me to hold on to or put my fingers through. But really, ideally, having both a longer tongue and a tongue loop would have been the best. I can't help but think that the Velcro positioning was impacted by the fact that the tongue is so short, which compounds the main issue at hand, which is that it is hard to put this particular shoe onto your foot. However, it's not all doom and gloom, because when you finally do get your foot into the shoe, the lockdown is fantastic. It felt pretty nice and snug. And moving on to the heel of the shoe, it is measured to be 22 millimeters, which is pretty standard amongst the other weightlifting shoes on the market, for example, like the Romaleo 2s or the Legacy lifters. The construction of the heel and heel counter is made of TPU, so you can rely on it to be pretty solid. But interestingly enough, the shoe actually feels a bit more flexible compared to my Legacy lifters, because even though the heel is nice, the rest of the shoe is a bit more flexible when transitioning into a plantar flexion. I noticed it most when I was doing the Olympic lifts, but I really didn't see much of a difference for my normal exercises such as single leg squats or barbell squats. And then for the aesthetic of the shoe, I think it looks pretty much like an average weightlifting shoe. I don't think there's that much special about it. And there isn't a ton of colors currently available just because the shoe is relatively new, at least at the time of this review. But I would guess over time that they'll probably have more to pick from. And as far as pricing goes for this shoe, they came in at $199 US, which puts these shoes firmly in the premium shoe category. And that's it. That wraps up my review on the TYR L1 lifters. I think these shoes are exactly what it's marketed as, which is it is a wide foot weightlifting shoes. For me, I enjoyed the shoe just because of the extra space and it made it more comfortable for me. But honestly, I think I would have been fine either way, whether or not I wore my old Legacy lifters or these shoes. My old shoes have been worn long enough that they've been stretched out to fit my foot better. But if you're looking for weightlifting shoes that are specifically wider, then there really isn't any other option out there except this shoe, so it's kind of a no-brainer. I am happy with them, and I would recommend them. But ultimately, remember, the goal should be to find a pair of shoes that fit your foot the best. And if your old weightlifting shoes aren't giving you any problems, then I don't think you absolutely need to go out and pick up this shoe, since they're pretty pricey. But for those of you who still do want to pick up this shoe, the links to this shoe are in the description box. And if you found this video valuable, please consider hitting the like button. I would much appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.